Agenda 2063, a program where we put a spotlight on the Agenda 2063, the roadmap for Africa's development in the next 50 years. On today's show, I have intelligent and smart lady and gentlemen here whom I'll be discussing the topics with. So I'll go straight forward and introduce my guest. On my immediate left is Francis Tokoli. Francis Tokoli is a researcher and also holds an MPhil in economics from the University of Ghana. Right next to him is Mr. David Kosa. Mr. David Kosa also holds an MPhil in finance from the University of Ghana. And then the lady here is Miss Irene Adai-Dufie. Miss Irene is also a staff at the Association of African Universities, a project officer with the Association of African Universities. And she's also, she has a background in international relations, also from the University of Ghana. So, as you can see, I have an interesting lineup here. And so, gentlemen, lady, let's zoom in straight to our discussions for today. But then, before we go into our discussions, let's take a quick break, and then when we're back, we will go to our discussion for today.
All right.
Okay, so we will take...
My name is Dr. Violet Makuku, a quality assurance expert with the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is here with the African Quality Rating Mechanism, internal institutional evaluation tool that can help you improve the quality of higher education, whether it is in teaching and learning, in ICT, in infrastructure, financial management, university management, and all the other aspects whose quality should be monitored in the university. Kindly follow the provided links for you to understand more about the African Quality Rating Mechanism, institutional evaluation process, and also to get hold of the form that you can use to express interest. AAU, the voice of higher education in Africa.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 2063 on AAU TV, and I'm your host, Schneider Kweku Ankuma. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Koko.
All right. So I'll call you by Francis. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And David,
obviously.
And then Irene. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. So Francis, David, Irene. This is Agenda 2063. We talk about the Agenda 2063 of the African Union to achieve a prosperous and integrated Africa in the next 50 years. Right. So it's a roadmap for Africa's development towards the Africa we want. And this is a 50-year plan. And so looking at our ages, we are the ones to man this particular project. And that is why I saw all of you fit to be here with us to discuss this agenda. Today we are talking about the Aspiration 1 out of the 7 aspirations in the Agenda 2063. And so our broad topic for discussion today will be the Aspiration 1, which is a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And so under this, we'll be looking at how we can improve the standard of living of Africans such that we can improve on the standard of living of Africans such that the benefits of growth are widely spread. So we make sure that we achieve improved standard of living, we reduce poverty, and at the same time we reduce inequality, increase incomes, and all those things. So I'll be taking from you the strategies that you think we should adopt as a continent to achieve this. So I'll start from you, Francis. Francis, what do you think are the strategies we can use to achieve all these objectives I've outlined?
Thank you. I'd like to greet my cherished viewers. What I would have to talk about is about making sure that whatever we get in the form of development is widely spread. In other words, to make sure that main outcomes are widely spread and there's a reduced level of inequality in the continent Africa, so that we are not only talking about the fact that maybe the health status of our country or our continent has increased to a particular level, but that the health status of our continent is well spread, such that those from the northern, the southern, the east, and the western parts of the continent are all benefiting in considerably equal terms in terms of the gains. Now, in terms of, let me talk about Ghana, for instance. We would have to look at a lot of things. First is education. Next is health. In terms of poverty reduction, you would have to look at education, you would like to look at health, you will have to look at employment. In terms of health, how are we able to achieve that? Is it about a government making sure that at the end of the day we have high ranks in terms of GDP, or in terms of interest rate, or in terms of channel out high employment figures? It should move beyond that, because if it's about making sure that a particular country is doing well, then if it has to talk about establishing maybe a hospital in Ghana, the interest should not necessarily be about establishing a hospital so that at the end of the day we say that a lot more people are going to the hospital, but should be such that those who are in the areas where there are no hospitals are able to benefit in equal terms like those who are benefiting. So it is not about I want to situate a hospital in Accra so that a lot more people will go to the hospital in Accra, but rather look at whether those in the northern part of the country are benefiting as much as those in the greater Accra region, so that it will be like, even though when you establish the hospital in Accra, a lot more people will go to the hospital in Accra, you think that there are a lot of hospitals already existing in Accra. So let's situate it in Upper East or Upper West, where maybe a lot more people wouldn't go, but then there will be some level of gains to those who are in the Upper East and the Upper West region. When it comes to education too, it is also about making sure that you take out what belongs to those at the upper level, and making sure that you let it benefit those at the lower level of the wealth quintile, so that it wouldn't be such that those who are at the upper level and the lower level are still benefiting the same way in terms of whatever policy you are enacting in the education sector. So there are a lot of things that we must look at. What I'm saying is that when we want to look at development, what I think we should look more into is not about making sure that main outcomes in terms of indicators are just increasing, but should make sure that we target the inequalities that are existing, to making sure that the indicators such as Gini coefficients, indicators such as Gini coefficient, inequality indicators will also be looked at, because most times if it's about health, then we are looking at factors such indicators such as making sure that we reduce maternal mortalities, we reduce infant mortality, we increase health facility, we increase those factors. We don't make sure we look at how the increment is well spread. So I think that first of all, we would have to make sure that we have enough research in these areas. And if there are more research in these areas, we should make sure that we tap into those research and base, so that at least we make use of those research to the benefit of the country. Because it is not all about just standing up one day and saying that I want to implement a project. It is about making sure that you forecast and make sure that these projects that you are about implementing will benefit the populace. So these are some of the things that we can do if you really want to make sure that our growth is well spread across the population. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. So Francis took it from the angle of health and also looking at education and then reducing inequality.
Yeah.
David?
Kwaku, thank you very much for this opportunity. Now we're talking about ways of reducing poverty in Africa, right? We are aware, very much aware, that Africa is the poorest continent in the world.
Okay.
And we have about 43% of Africans living below $1.25 every day per person, right? This is very awful.
So 1.25% being the poverty line?
No. What I mean is 43% of Africans are regarded as poor.
Okay.
And in essence, these people are living below $1.25 every day, right? The CD equivalent is...
Is the $1.25 the poverty line?
Good.
Okay.
And these people are living below that,
okay,
right? So anybody who is living below $1.25 a day is regarded as poor.
Okay.
And we have 43% of Africans living below this. It's about 5 cities, right? If my convention is very right. So we have 43% of Africans living below 5 cities a day. You can imagine, it's very awful. Now, out of the 43% of these Africans who are living below 1.25%, 70% of them are farmers. So if you really want to know how best we could elevate poverty in Africa, let's tackle the masses who are poor. The chunk of the poor people in Africa are farmers, and this comprises 70% of the 43% of Africans who are regarded as poor. Now, what do we do if we are very much interested in elevating poverty and to a large extent reducing the income inequality? What we do is first tackle agriculture. What are the issues with regards to agriculture in Africa? You know, a typical example is in Ghana. Yesterday, I heard the Minister of Finance saying Ghana imports like $2.5 billion worth of food every year into the country. Kwaku, is very awful. Do you know the reason why I'm saying this? We are living in a country where we could cultivate at every corner of the country, right? You just have to spread some seed somewhere, and the next harvest you could go there and harvest. Now, in Africa, what is happening is, with regards to grains, we are able to harvest like 0.5 ton per hectare, while in other countries, they are able to harvest like 5 tons per hectare. Other people could go to the extent of harvesting like 10 tons per hectare. The very reason that is affecting agriculture sector, and where a chunk of those living under $1.5 are living is, one, there is no financial cushioning for these farmers, right? So most of our farmers are peasant farmers. All they do is to cultivate something small for their family, and the next moment they will have nothing to survive on. A typical example is in Ghana. In Ghana here, most of those who are similarly poor, living below the poverty line, are farmers. And these people are mostly in the northern sector of Ghana, where farming is their main occupation. I hope you get me very well. So if you really want to reduce poverty in Africa and in Ghana and to a large extent Africa, what you have to do is tackle the problem farmers are facing. Now we can think about one thing that is lacking in the farming agriculture sector is an insurance package for farmers. I don't know if you've come across any insurance policy for farmers in Ghana or in Africa at large. Now, this has made agriculture and farming very, very, very non-lucrative. People are not willing to venture there because of the high risk there. You put in you put in money there, and you are so uncertain how much your yields would be sold in the market the next moment, right? Especially people's tomatoes are made to rot in farms because they do not get even buyers to buy it. So what we could do, if you really want to elevate poverty in Africa, is to help farmers. Now what we could do is have some financial cushioning for them, insurance package. The insurance package, what the insurance package would do for farmers is, now, we anticipate, just like cocoa price, we anticipate that at the end of this year, you're going to make this much, right? The prices are supposed to be this much. Now, if by virtue of certain eventualities, more often natural occurrences or natural phenomena, you are not able to, your products are not sold at this price, what is in there for you? trust me, farmers will be willing to pay premium for such insurance covers, right? Because every farmer will know that at the end of this period, this is how much I'm supposed to get. Once I'm very certain that in the worst case, I'm going to make this, my products are going to be sold at this price, nobody wouldn't want to go into farming. People would, farming would be very lucrative, and we wouldn't have to import agriculture, food into Ghana. In fact, Ghana is so fertile that we should be able to even feed ourselves and export rice, export fowl. You have no idea, Kwaku, the funny stuff that we import into the country every year. In fact, we import chicken. Kwaku, you are cutting me short. Let me tackle the farmers issue first. Now, we import chicken, right? Can't we have this insurance package for farmers? I'm sure there might be one, which I'm not aware.
That's what I want to talk on, because you say insurance package, and already you're saying that the majority of farmers are poor.
Good.
And they are living below the poverty line.
Good.
Now you are bringing an insurance which they have to pay a premium.
Kwaku.
So in that, how do they afford the premium? Or you are talking about some special kind of insurance where they have to pay premium post-harvest?
No, listen.
Because
post-harvest. No, what you do is, we are poor, but you pay health insurance, right? No, you have no idea the insurance could be tailor-made for these farmers, taking into consideration their financial status. You get my point. They do pay for health insurance. That's annual premium, right? I think we as academics and we as researchers should come out with some insurance package for farmers. Okay. And trust me, if you're able to bring out an insurance package for farmers, farming will be very lucrative, because every farmer would want to be so certain how much his or her product is going to be sold the next moment. You have no idea how much farmers are investing in their farms, right? Okay. And you have no idea how much losses they make year on year. So if a farmer is very rest assured that at the end of the season, a box of tomatoes is going to cost this much, he'll be willing to pay for insurance package to cover for the price and the losses, right? Because they make huge losses. Now, with insurance, putting insurance aside, I'm thinking about having some soft loans for farmers, because I've already said these people are the poor ones in the society. Do we have any...
Before we go that, is government cushioning not against WTO regulations for agriculture?
Agriculture, no. I don't think so.
There is. If you go to the WTO, you know that you can't give a certain type of cushioning.
So
I think...
No, now...
Irene, David, I'll come back to you.
All right,
so
you I wish I could make this point.
Irene, what do you think otherwise?
What do I think otherwise?
Yeah, maybe, in terms of reducing or eliminating poverty, because David was talking about providing some form of insurance.
I think every point that has been said here is valid, but we are to go back and look at Africa. It's the second largest continent. And it is the first, in terms of richness, in terms of resources, it's number one. But looking at us still here talking about how to prosper Africa, I think it's very ironic, looking at the things we have and what we are even talking about. But why has it been that way? I think, first of all, we need to go back and look at how we got here, and how things are still like that. We are talking about education. I think we are still educating ourselves, but are the right things being done? That is what we should look at, because first of all, we need to prosper. I don't think we even say we need to prosper, because we have everything for us to prosper. Just that we are not going through the right channels. We are not doing the right things for us to prosper. He talked about healthcare. He talked about equal access to things. And that is true, because we always make our judgment based on a few field studies in urban areas. We don't even go to the rural areas. We talk about we are increasing GDP, but looking at them, they are very poor people around. So improving Africa, I think the most important things that we need to do is to look at our resources and see that we have a bargaining power. We can stand with our resources, and we can develop Africa with our resources. Even come to think of it, the human resources, Africa has the largest human resources, second to Asia.
Sure.
So what do we lack? What we lack, first of all, is our mind, our mentality, that we have been colonized and so we are owned. It's been a while, we are supposed to move from that. And then psych our mind that we can develop on our own without people pushing in. Because first of all, when people come into your country to help, they have their agendas. And it can never be a win-win situation for you when you wait on people to come help you develop. So what I'm saying is that we are supposed to put proper measures in place, proper education, proper sensitization. Everything that we are supposed to do should be in checks. Whether it's procurement, everything should be in check. Whether it's the judiciary system, it should be fair, it should be quick. People should not be on the better side of our judiciary system. Whether it's, as he said, healthcare, it should be accessible to all. Okay. Looking at examples in Ghana, as they have already mentioned, there are some places you would have to go through the river to get to the healthcare system. And it's not only in Ghana. We look at various parts of Africa. We look at Congo, where Ebola, we look at Guinea. What have been done after the first Ebola system? We waited for them the West to build systems for us to take care of Ebola situation. But this is our disease, this is our illness, and we will know well how we should take care of our systems. But it seems we have to wait for AIDS before we can do it. And so first and foremost, we are supposed to take the first step into developing.
So we will come back to the AIDS and then all the investment aspect of it. But Francis, whilst we are talking about things, I saw you nodding your head. Maybe you are synthesizing some of the things they say.
Yes,
what do you have to say?
I was talking about, she made mention of education, and she talked about proper education. See, the
because
whole
we want we want growth, but then we want to make sure that the benefits of growth are widely spread.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah. So I'm saying that we are talking about education, and what we are talking about is proper education. Now, in the research field, we say quality education. Yeah. Now, when we say quality education, we are saying education is a good thing, not because we think people, when people go through the classrooms for 3 years, they come out become extraordinary people. We say education is a good thing because we know that when they go through the classroom, there are certain things that they learn. There are certain things that they are being taught that will make them different. So if the whole idea of education is about making sure someone go and sit in a classroom for 3 years and come back, then we are losing it all. So we must make sure that when we are talking about education and we think education is going to lead to growth, we must focus on the quality of education that we are getting. Why is it that in Africa, we have graduates go through the 4-year system and someone will come out and the mentality of the person is to find someone that will employ him or her. Now, if it's about people that we claim are lazy, why is it that a lot of people come out and they are looking for people to employ? If they are lazy, then we should just have some few people being lazy. Why is it that a lot of people, very sizable percentage of our graduates come out and they are looking for people to employ them?
Let me say, it's not about the education that hasn't changed their mind for them to expect someone to employ them, but probably there are no system in place to help them think for themselves. Okay,
so that is where when we're talking about education, there's a lot of aspects of education. There's formal education, there's informal education. When we say education, it is not about the class. That's what I'm talking about. It's not a matter of going to University of Ghana, sit at lecture hall from level 100 to level 400, go and do your masters, go for lectures and come back, and that is it. We are talking about education to mean that every system that is in place to ensure that someone goes through that is what we mean by education. If someone is in level 100, what arrangement is the university system putting in place so that when a person is around during the vacation, the person can be linked to an agency or an institution somewhere, so the person will add up to whatever he's learning in the classroom. So that is all I'm talking about.
Thank you very much, Francis. David, let me get back to you.
All the points they are making are very legit, right? But I'm so much interested in the farming issue. I don't know why I'm so interested. Perhaps it's because I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I think it's fundamental. Once we have 70% of these 43% who are poor being farmers, and when I mean farmers in our context, it's peasant farmers. If we really want to elevate poverty, okay, and make lives of the masses comfortable, then let's look at the chunk of people like the 70%. Farming is not lucrative in Africa. I hope all of us would agree to this. Good. I was talking about this financial, making loans, soft loans to farmers. It's very crucial, Kwaku, because one, most of the farmers are not well educated. They usually don't have the collateral for loans. And banks even give loans to farmers at a relatively higher interest rate because of the higher risks in farming. I hope you understand. Yeah. Now, I'm so interested because they comprise the masses. If you are able to financially help them, we have A.G.E.N.D.A, Agriculture Development Bank, and this cuts across, it's cascading, like it transfers in all the countries, 53 countries in Africa. Almost all the farmers in Africa are suffering, in fact, having the same problems. So if you're able to provide them with loans, okay, help them with some mechanizations, I think with time, even if we would have to talk about this poverty, we wouldn't pay much attention to poverty. What perhaps you would pay much attention is making life of people more prosperous, right? Yeah. Not necessarily elevating poverty. Because when we're talking about poverty, imagine people are living below 1.25. So in essence, most of them, people who are above the 43%, like 57% of the population are living either on the 1.25% or a little above that. Those people are not regarded as poor. And imagine living in Accra on $1.25 a day. Are you seen to be somebody who is living a comfortable life? So I think if you're able to tackle the issue of farming, health, whatever, we wouldn't waste much time talking about elevating poverty, but the next time we'll be seated here, in the next 50 years, we'll be thinking about how to make people's life more comfortable in Africa.
So you think tackling agricultural problems,
I think it's the paramount, because that's where the majority of people who are
but then you
seem to be
about
poor.
That, and you also should be concerned about their health.
Kwaku, good. In fact, if you are poor, you wouldn't even be able to access healthcare, right? If you are poor in the first place, there are a lot of people who are dying of preventable disease. Not because this disease they couldn't survive it, but because they don't have the means to even go and buy para from the drugstore or pharmacy, right? So let's tackle poverty issues. These are the masses. These are the chunk of people who are not having money. They are suffering, right? Let's help them out. I'm not saying the others are not necessary or education is equally important. In fact, we were at par with Singapore and stuff, but because they have about 90% of their population be enlightened elites, and Africa is like about a little above 6% who have secondary education. Very poor, very bad. Okay, but then I'm not downplaying the importance of education. But where lies the masses of people who are poor? They are in the agriculture sector.
I wanted to make a point in relation to education and linking it to agriculture. You see, the mentality. Our mentality as Africans is something that had to be revisited. You know, when someone is a first degree holder, that doesn't mean you cannot be a farmer. You can be a farmer. But Francis, it's not lucrative in the first place. So first degree holders see agriculture as a form of punishment. I think I want to make a point. All right, Francis. What kind of orientation were we given? We were oriented that. Please, you are not. No. I'm getting your point perfectly wrong. David, I'm saying that, David, please. I want to make a point. So I want to make a point. Right. What I'm saying is that what kind of orientation were we given? If you go to the US, how many people are into farming? But those small number of people who are into farming are able to feed the entire US population to the extent that they are able to export it to the benefit of some of these countries that we are talking about in Ghana. So it is not a matter, it's about, even if we're talking about farming, education means a lot to me as a person, health means a lot to me, employment means a lot to me. But I'm saying that if you are an educated person and you wouldn't see the need to go into farming after school, then it means there's something questionable, because, I mean, when we're talking about opportunities out there. Opportunity is about finding a problem and then getting a problem and trying to find solution to that problem that you are finding. So if farming is our problem, is being able to lift ourselves out of the poverty line is our problem. If agriculture is our problem, if food is our problem, and you are educated, and your educational system is not able to afford you the opportunities to think about how you'll be able to make sure that that problem in our farming, that problem in our food, in relation to our food security is not being resolved. What am I saying? We should try as much as possible not to only look at how to just make sure something is there, but to make sure that what it is that you want to put in place has something that is valuable. So if it's about the medical personnel that we are channeling, we should make sure that they are not just nurses, but nurses that provide the best of services, so that you don't see that you are doing well because you have increased the nurses patients ratio. But then you go to the hospital and the kind of services that you get is appalling. So you don't tell me that there are lots of people that have completed secondary school and you won't be able to tell the kind of knowledge and the kind of intellect that you are bringing out. Because we have a lot of secondary school. If you have people who we consider literate, who are done with secondary education and wouldn't see the need to even eat and put the food in their dustbins. Because that is what we think. You go to even University of Ghana, you go to some of these tertiary institutions, and you have litters all around. Which will put it there?
Okay.
It is our so-called educators. So I'm trying to say that for us to be able to make sure we reduce poverty, we have to make sure that whatever indicators that we are trying to improve are not just mere things that we say, but are things that we can talk about quality. So if it's about literacy, we should make sure that we shouldn't say because the West are saying that when you are having a secondary level education, you are considered a literate, or a basic level education, you are considered a literate. We had this number of literacy and so we are well to do. Or if you say that it is about, we are saying that, okay, we want to hit this level of life expectancy. So if you are able to get a life expectancy at birth, which is 70, it means that we've gotten to the level. We should make sure that all those things that we are talking about, if not proper, we should make sure that it is well distributed so that those at the lower end and the upper end will move up and then will move and then it's what it widens. Okay. So that's what I want.
Thank you very much, Francis. Now, ladies, gentlemen, let's look at a new trend, a developing trend, because we want to achieve a prosperous Africa, gain sustainable development. Now, a new trend, something it looks like Africa is resorting to, is looking at the West to solve our problems. And now there's a huge inflow of foreign investment into the continent. Now the West have developed interest in Africa, and now they are moving resources to Africa. China has developed interest in Africa, and recently we are talking about, we are worried about China's involvement in Africa. All because we want to do everything to reduce poverty and then increase incomes and then also create jobs. And mostly when they come, these are some of the things they come to entice us with. We are doing this to create jobs, improve incomes. Do we have a cause to worry? Irene, let me start from you.
Thank you for the question. And one thing that I want to clarify is that the West has been here since. They've been here since our grandparents, our great-great-grandparents, and they will continue to be here. And when we die and our children come, they will still be here. There are two sides to this question that you asked. That are we supposed to be alarmed that they being here? First is yes, second is no. The first point is that why are we supposed to be alarmed? We are supposed to be alarmed because they come in with the intention that Africa has the resources they need for their country's development. And then they are coming in to develop their country. And so first and foremost, it is not to our advantage. It is to their advantage. That is why they are coming here. So they come in a form of aid to help us develop, which in a real sense doesn't happen. Okay, we've read so many, the economists here, they've read so many books on why aid is no good for Africa.
Okay.
And then these are valid points in the book showing that ever since we received aid in our countries, we've not only not deteriorated, but we are still low, far behind.
Some even think we are now even worse off.
We are worse off.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the first point. The second point, where I think is the common sense for us, is that people are coming into our system with the intent of helping us. And so they come with their proposals. It is up to us to look at these proposals, whether it would benefit us. Then we give in to that, because what they are coming to do, looking at China's investment in Africa, they building real systems and all of that. I think when you leave us, it will take a very long time for us to do those expansions in our countries. But when they come in, it becomes faster. Then we start reaping the benefits. Good. And so the reason why I say is that, first of all, we don't stand in a better position because of how we've organized our resources, because of how we've managed it till now. If really we have managed it well, I don't think we will need them to come. Well, they can come build for us, but we can pay them outright. We don't need to give it to them for probably handling for 20 years before they give it to us. You get it? And so coming in, there are two sides. It could be good, it could be bad, but it's the position that we take that would determine the factor of the West and then the East coming into Africa.
David, I will come to you, but then I came across a video on LinkedIn by RT News. They were reporting on the Africa and China's investment in Africa and the West investment in Africa. And so let me briefly show you the video, so that afterwards you can also make your submissions based on the video. It's by RT News, they reported it, and I came across this on LinkedIn, and it said, like, share your views on this. Okay, so let's see a video as reported by RT News on China's investment in Africa. Do we have a cause to worry? After you watch the video, you can also share your thoughts on our Facebook page. Follow us, Association of African Universities, and you can also share your views on the activities and the discussions we are having here. So let's watch the video here and then make our submissions on the video.
This railway in Kenya, this road and hydropower station in Uganda have all been built with Chinese money. Beijing has channeled $136 billion into the African continent over the last 17 years, and there's more to come. China's president has pledged $60 billion in extra funding for similar enterprises.
China and Africa will join hands to build a China-Africa community with shared future that features win-win cooperation, happiness for all, and harmonious coexistence.
For some African countries, these are the largest infrastructure projects in years. But some see something completely different. A debt trap, vanity projects, new colonialism.
More of Africa finds itself in China's debt.
China is saddling the partner countries with crippling debt.
Saddling Africa with unsustainable debt.
Why the sudden concern? Well, the China-Africa summit comes at a time of fierce competition between Western powers and Beijing. Angela Merkel and Theresa May have just finished their tours of the continent. Merkel, German CEOs in tow, was on a mission. More investment, more jobs to discourage migration. The result? Volkswagen announcing expansions in operations in Ghana and Nigeria. Theresa May wasn't far behind. New trade deals, direct government investments, and touting UK business too. And aside from trying to charm the leaders with her viral dance skills, May even hinted who it is she's trying to outbid on her Africa visit.
While we cannot compete with the economic might of some foreign governments investing in Africa, what we can offer is long-term investment of the very highest quality and breadth.
Being the same as funds, why are those provided by Western countries the pie, while those provided by China become the trap? Is this not a flagrant double standard?
China's bemusement is understandable. Two investors, two sets of rules. But what do African leaders make of the new partnerships?
Africa is not a zero-sum game. Our growing ties with China do not come at anyone's expense.
FOCAC refutes the view that a new colonialism is taking hold in Africa, as our detractors would have us believe.
Investment boost, market support, bolstered economic relationships. Those words describe Western involvement in Africa. Debt colonialism is the buzzword when it's the Chinese. It seems the former colonizers are getting a bit nervous. And the reason why African leaders don't see China as a new colonizing power is that Beijing doesn't bother with meddling in African politics.
China and Africa has been a symbiotic relationship. The Chinese have been quite savvy, very clever. They made sure that they don't interfere in African politics, which has been their trade all along. They don't involve themselves in any form of political cycles. It's purely what can we give you, what can we get out of it, how can we both mutually benefit outside of what the political circles are. With the West, it's a carrot and stick approach. You either play ball, get the financing, usually at bad rates, and in return, they determine how well or how fast your economy should grow. They will determine what opportunities should come your way. So the carrot and stick approach that the West has used on Africa has backfired. Africans are saying we would rather deal with China than the West.
Okay, ladies, gentlemen, as you saw in the video, a lot has been said. Now we are worried. People are saying that this type of investments will put Africa into a debt trap. Some are saying it's a new form of colonialism. Some are also saying that they are all vanity projects that are being brought to Africa in a bid to tap into our resources. A lot can be said about this video.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot. And I know you gentlemen and the lady, if I give you the chance, you're going to spend the whole day talking about this video. But then, in context of our discussion, investments are coming in and day out. It's good, and somebody can also say it's bad. But then let's look at the good. How do we leverage on this to achieve the prosperous Africa we want? How do we leverage on this to improve on our economic situation, creating jobs, improving the standard of living, reducing poverty? How do we leverage on this? I just need how we can leverage on this, not whether it's bad or good. David.
Koko, I don't think we can talk about whether it is bad or good if we don't, how we can leverage on this if we don't talk about whether it is bad or good, right? What I want us to understand is the investments that are coming in, these Chinese and the West are not for the Christmas. They don't come in if they know they wouldn't get anything out of it, right? I think loans and aids that come here to Africa is not good for us.
Not good for us.
It's not good for us at all. My reason, now, World Bank reported somewhere in 2010 that over the past 4 decades, which is 40 years ago, Africa has received over 1 trillion from the West, okay, in the form of loans and aids. Kwaku, China received similar package, right? And today we're going to China for loans. We're going to China for aids. What has been the standard of living of Africa? Has there been any improvements upon getting this amount of loans over the past decades? That's the question you have to ask. Now, after the World War II, okay, somewhere in 1948, I don't know if you've heard of the Marshall Plan. Yeah. Good. Europe needed some help to revamp the economy after the World War II because of the devastating nature of the World War. Okay, and they resorted to the United States of America. Kwaku, they went and took like 20 billion USD back then. And if you should try to compound that amount to today's value of USD, it is close to 100 billion, right? And they've been able to revamp the economy in a matter of this short period. And even big countries have to go to UK, mention them Holland for AIDS, right? One, our leaders have failed us to a large extent, and we don't need loans. The whites are coming here because they've exhausted all their resources. You should remember Africa alone holds about 30% of the world's natural resources that is remaining on the planet Earth. You understand? And after they've exhausted all their natural resources, I think the best way to come to Africa to take advantage of our natural resources is to come package something in a form of aid or a loan to us. Some investment package, Kwaku. And the very reason why I'm worried is they will come with their loans, aids. What happens? They come with their own people. They will tell you, oh, you need roads. Now we're giving you this much for road, okay? But what they do is they'll come with their own nationals. The monies wouldn't be with us. Trust me, the monies will be sitting in A.G.E.N.D.A and some international bank. As and when their nationals who are working on our roads, who are working on our railways, needs them, they go and withdraw and use it. And at the end of the day, they repatriate the monies to their countries.
Putting pressure on our exchange rate.
Let me land.
David,
good. Let me make my point.
Once you make your point, I want you to give us strategies. Because we cannot avoid this.
We can't avoid them.
So
what we do is,
can we adapt to get the best out of it?
What we can do is, now, we know the Western people have technology, okay? Now, what we also need, we need technology here, right? We have the natural resources. We wouldn't want to use those stuff as collateral or whatever. What we can do is now, a typical example is Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. We've been exporting cocoa beans in their raw state since time immemorial. And we've not been able to have any company in Ghana that processes chocolate and stuff. I don't know how well they are operating. And every year you have to go for syndicated loans to buy our cocoa beans. Because what we can do is, now the whites, you need our cocoa beans. Okay? What you can do is, come and establish your plants here. You will build your plant here. You operate for some years. You process the cocoa beans you need. You export it into your country. You get some value out of it. Now, what we can do is, we will make you operate for some number of years. Okay? You operate here. It's just like both operate and transfer. Okay. But at the end of the day, you will be entitled to something. So maybe after 10 years, we're looking at the long term, making it sustainable. After 10 years, we wouldn't have to be exporting cocoa beans again. But then after they had come to plant their plants here, processes the cocoa beans, and we are able to export them now, not in the raw material stage again, but a bit processed. We can export them at a higher value, right? And we'll make a lot of money. We've been mining gold for years. We don't have any gold refinery here. Now, otherwise, you need a gold bar. We wouldn't give it to you. Come and establish that your plant here. Refine our goods, process it to some extent, even if not to the juries we are all expecting. At the end of the day, you export it, okay, and you get some value. You operate for some number of years, 10 years, 20 years and stuff. At the end of the day, you export it and you get some value. If you allow them to come with their own loans here into Africa, give us their own conditions, bring their own people, and at the end of the day, repatriate the money so we don't get anything out of it. We would have to be spending much. And besides, one thing we need to know with regards to aids and loans coming into Africa are that these loans do not really, the activity they use, whatever they use the monies for, do not really provide us immediate source of income to pay back the loan. So now they'll give you a loan. They'll come and build your bridges. They'll come and build your roads for you.
So how do we avert that situation?
So in averting it, we have to make sure that they come here, establish their plants here, maybe a cocoa processing company, an oil refinery company, what have you, gold, bauxite, whatever. You come and build your plants here. You operate. You wouldn't export it into your country in the raw form, go and process it and come and sell it back to us at a higher value. No.
So you process it here.
You process it, you export it there. Now you need our gold. We also need your technology. Bring your technology and we'll give you our gold.
All right. right.
in a more processed form.
Good. Thank you very much, David. Francis, what's your take on this? How do we position ourselves to benefit from this? And then remember, we are talking about sustainable development. We will be giving them our resources in exchange for this. But then, in the future, what do we stand to gain from this? Give us the strategies.
Okay, thank you very much. I see when you talked about the West, China was where we're coming into Africa, and promises here and there, investments here and there. The whole issue is about competition. At a point in time, it was one-sided. It was about the West having the autonomy to exploit a continent called Africa. Now they have a competition called China. China is coming in as a competitor. It is about coming out to make sure that whatever you are giving out is best. So whilst China is promising this, their competitors who are the West are also promising this. Okay. So the whole idea of you hearing China promising, these people promising, is about the fact that someone knows that this time around, it is not all about me. It is about another person who, when I don't take care, will take over everything that I think should be mine. Now, my issue about whether it is a good thing or a bad thing, it all depends on how we handle it. Now, if at a point in time, you come and take my resources and go with it, and I don't say anything, and then I grow up to realize that no, when you are coming, I should sit up and make sure that I don't just allow you to go with my resources, but I make sure that before you get my resources, I am able to get value for my resources. You don't lose. Yeah. So it is not a matter of saying, let them do it or not. When they come out and they realize that they are coming with their strategy, they sat down to plan as a country, as a continent, as a people, to say that we are coming to exploit these people because we have known these people to be low when it comes to. And so they are coming with their strategy. And they know that since time immemorial, we don't strategize. They come to lure us with their money and we give in. Now, if we sit up as a people and we also strategize, just as they are strategizing and they come, they give us their conditions and we give them ours. When it happens so, no one will be losing. That is when the win-win come in. Because they are coming with a win-win notion. But at the back of that, they have something else. So I wouldn't say, I mean, US even trade with other countries. US go for loans and all those things. I mean, just like my brother is saying, at a point in time, some European countries realize they need loans, they need aids to be able to move up. Okay, and the same thing applies to Africa. In their case, they did not just go in for the loan to come and spend it on unnecessary stuff. They were able to account for each and everything that they used the loan for. They were able to make use of the loan to the advantage of their people. Yes. So if today Africa can sit up and say that we are not saying we won't go in for loan, we are not saying we don't need aid, or we are not saying we don't need loan. But what we are saying is that when you bring the loan and we say we want to use it for this, we go in for this. When you are bringing your condition, we just wouldn't take the book and sign, but we'll go into it and think through. It is not about saying I'm a government and so I want to spend 100 years in power and so let me get the money and do a lot of projects so that at the end of the day, when it's time for election, I will say that I did this and I did this and I know. It is about thinking deep and looking at how that is going to affect your people. So it is about the mentality of our leaders and how we also hold our leaders accountable for what they use, the resources that come in from these countries. So, because then I realized that Africa is, and you see, the whole, my sister talked about the fact that Africa is the second largest continent. But the point is that Africa holds the largest and the youngest population.
Good. So we will talk about Africa's population in the next episode and all those things.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that they are coming because they believe that when we talk about resources, both natural and human, they have a lot to tap when it comes to Africa. So it is about we sitting down and strategize. I wouldn't sit here and say that do it. it is not about just opening your mouth and say. It is about coming together as as a people and be able to look into whatever they are bringing and making sure that we have value for money and making sure that whatever they are bringing doesn't have any bad motive behind it. And I think when we do that, we benefit.
I know a lot needs to be said, but then Irene, let's look at this. Is it time we stop focusing on China coming to Africa? We stop focusing on the aids flowing to Africa and then focus on our leaders? Because I'm seeing something here. We should stop focusing on the Chinese and then whoever is coming in, and then focusing on our leaders, what they are doing. I'm giving you 1 minute.
No, it's not about you focusing from China or anything, because at the end of the day, we still need the aid. I stand on the part where we need the aid. And when he was talking, I remember the conversation we're having, is that we have the bargaining power. There are two people, they are in competition, you make the right choice.
Monopoly. That means we have monopoly. And then
that was what I was trying to explain the other time to Kwesi, that we have the bargaining power. And the person who is saying we don't have the power doesn't know what he's saying. And it is for us to take advantage of that and work diligently, accountably for that. And so we cannot say that we don't need them and we should focus on our leaders. We need the Chinese, we need good leaders. As he said, we need quality leaders. We need accountable leaders. That the things, the money that they are taking, at the end of the day, Ghana is loaning its bauxite for the train stations. Why don't we pay them after we are satisfied with the work that we are giving them? You get it? That is the bargain that we have.
Right now, we do not know.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that is exact it. I'm saying that what we can do to our advantage is that when we finish and it's quality, we pay. Because that is how powerful we are with our resources. They need it. And so it's not about we focusing from China and looking at our leaders. We can do both at the same time.
David, let me give you one final opportunity, a minute.
Let's talk about our leaders. I think we have to focus on them because they are the people behind all these deals. We didn't go to China with them, right? And what you have to know is about 25% of our GDP as Africa goes into people's pockets, right? Africa loses like $148 billion every year as a result of corruption. And so you can't take our leaders out of it. In fact, when China was looking for aids, when we were at par with China, Singapore and stuff, they have good leaders. And they knew what the country wanted to do. They got to know that they could specialize in technology. So they channeled almost all their resources and all their effort towards technology. And today, China is almost the hub of technology in the world, right? Our leaders do not have a clear focus. We've been resorting to these aids and loans. I'm not saying they are not good in totality, but then for how long would we be resorting to aids and loans without any clear focus? What are we using the aids for? For roads, right? For railways, right? For
things that they say will reduce poverty, will create
but at the end of the
jobs.
day, do they really reduce poverty? I think we are becoming impatient with our leaders and their way of governance.
The fundamentals, right? Because right now there seems to be gains, but then the gains are not widely spread, and that is why the African Union is saying that Aspiration 1, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen,
let me finalize this.
We don't have much time, so we do not have much time. We will have to end it here. Most obviously, we will continue with this discussion, and then I will have this same panel talking about these issues. But for today, our time is up. So thank you very much. And one final thing before I wrap up, before I leave. I have my little thing. I got a little thing that I am doing, that will contribute towards a successful Africa. When I'm walking on the street and I see somebody throw a rubbish anyway, I call the person, hey, please come here, pick it up, put it at the right place. That's my little thing. Ajwa, Dufie, Irene, what is your little thing?
It's not the huge things. I think it's helping others, I find helping my siblings or people I don't know get access to education.
Okay.
I think that's first and foremost. I think we help them develop.
Helping people to gain access to education. That is what you are doing in your own small corner. David,
my interest lies in governance. Okay, so my research into some policies of government and how it's going to impact the lives of others.
You are doing that through research. Francis, what's your little thing?
What I do as a person, we have these associations, we have this group that we believe the best we can do is to get it down to those who are really needy. So we have outreaches. Every year we spend about 2 weeks or more, at times 3 weeks. We go there, spend about 2 weeks, have contact with the students through teaching. And then when we close from the school, we go to the various households and speak to the parents on things relating to health, education, and social stuff. I've been doing that for the past 7 years.
That is interesting. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the show. Viewers, if you are watching us on Facebook and on YouTube, remember you can still add your comments and then suggestions on our link. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Agenda 2063, and I'm your host, Schneider Ankuma. I will come your way again next week with another episode of Agenda 2063. Thank you very much.